All right, you guys, this is part two of a little tea time with my guest, Mr. Brandon Jackson, as we explore how people of color are disproportionately victims of the legal system. Y'all stay tuned for part three and enjoy. We are back with part two of Brandon Jackson's interview. I am Jarek, aka Jarvis D, your host of A Little Tea Time. Brandon, let's dive back in. According to your documentary, Brandon Jackson versus the state of Louisiana, the guy dating your sister actually changed his testimony that he knew you and you still were falsely convicted of a crime you didn't do. How did that make you feel?
Like you're walking with your best friend and a car turns the corner and it's just a mistaken identity or how they acting right now, like really clowns, fools, killing one another. And they just start shooting. And your friend, your best friend who you're walking with, dies in your arm. You can't do nothing. You just got to look down at him and just pray and that's how I felt. And after hearing all the lies and the things that I know that he was instructed to say, and like it tore me up. And then for him and for the courts to know that he had changed his story several times. The lawyer that I had at the time even made him look at the jury and tell the jury at least several times that he was, lying, that he lied, that he was lying, and they still found me guilty, even after the detective even admitted, nothing that I got links this man to the crime other than what his co-defendant had said. Somebody that they got the guns from, the money from, all the evidence at his mama house. My name wasn't on the lease, but he told him that I gave him those things the next day. And like I said, there was a lot of underhanded things that went on because he had came back and made a VCR tape statement because, when I got locked up, cellular phones wasn't even in existence. But he had made a VCR tape statement and he told the truth. But they had denied me of playing that tape in trial. So the jury came back with a decision of 10-2. 10 white jurors found me guilty and 2 black didn't, because that's basically all the ones that I had on my jury was 2 black women. The remaining jurors was all white.
So you are telling me, based off the testimony of a person that they knew lied on the stand, you was still convicted.
Right. And after I was convicted, what really stood out to me, they had put it in the newspaper. I don't know if that was the Inquisitor at that time, but the district attorney said that he couldn't believe that he had won the case. But rest assured, you will see him again. And 25 and a half years later, look where I'm at. This time last year, I had a life sentence. So, that just let me know that my God sits high and look low.
That's it.
Then I never gave up. But they knew that I didn't do nothing. But then at that time now, Bossier was a place that people from Shreveport didn't want to get caught at because they always set an example. So a lot of that played the part too. You know, a
Hmm.
lot of that played the part too.
Okay, next question is a two-part question. Can you explain to my viewers why a non-unanimous verdicts were adopted into the Louisiana State Constitution in the 1898 Constitutional Convention during the Jim Crow era, and why is that so important to the state of Louisiana?
Because it still exists. Non-unanimous jurors was when they didn't have to have all 12. In other states, if one person felt like you didn't do anything, it was either a mistrial or, they'll go through the process and probably grant you a new trial or whatever, however they want to do it at that time. But Louisiana still adopted it. I think it was Louisiana and Oregon. They still upheld it. And as far as the Jim Crow laws, that was a law that was established to silence the blacks. It was legalized segregation, really. But it was designed, to keep us quiet. Whatever we say, it didn't even matter. It stopped us from voting. And to this day, it still exists. It still exists because we don't want to change it, And voting right now is one of the most greatest weapons that we can have, but we don't use it. And it's really kind of like a shame to where you got to have organizations to beg you to come out and vote. And it really shouldn't be like that. But that what happened in my case, what I had said earlier. 10 people found me guilty. 2 people found me not guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it was a law that was really established to silence us. But I really want the audience to dive off into that. I want them to go and study the roots of it and understand why it's, and still to this day, being used in Louisiana. Even though in 2020, the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional. They revisited it. But you still have 1,500 prisoners still being affected by it, because when they ruled it unconstitutional, they made part of it prospective and they made the other part retroactive. But it only affected the ones like had just came in the system. But it should have been, once you ruled it unconstitutional, it should be unconstitutional for all. We shouldn't still have 1,500 that can't benefit from what the other 1,500 benefited from.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't benefit from it. I'm still fighting it right now to this day. I was granted parole, and that's the only reason that I'm sitting here today.
So basically, they granted you parole just so you could get out.
I did what I had to do. I straightened up for me in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I went to prison, I was young, and I was still trying to live and had every respect that I had on the streets before I went.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost a lot of precious time by doing crazy things. But after, losing so many family members, like right now, my mom, she's the only living elder in my family right now. Everybody else died on me. And that really, really, really takes a toll on you. So it just came to a point one day I just woke up and I was basically two people. I had when I was born, my mother named me Brandon. Um, Everybody that growed up with me know me as Mac. That's my nickname. But when I jumped off the porch and was kidnapped by the streets, I became B-Dog. So that was the dog side of me. In prison, that's the side that I always wanted to make sure that people saw.
Mm-hmm.
But one day I woke up and I realized that in order for me to live, in order for me to make it home before my mother passed away, I had to kill B-Dog. I had to become Brandon again. And that's what I did.
I like that. And we're going to touch on something that's very important, you guys. We need y'all to get out there and vote. Voting is something that is very precious to us as a community of people. They are fighting and making it very hard for us to vote, so you should want to vote.
Yes.
And with that being said, we are going to wrap up this next part. Y'all stay tuned for part 3 with me and Mr. Brandon Jackson with a little tea time. We'll see y'all in a bit.